Good day, everyone. We are going to show in this module why it's critical to advocate for the rights of those with disabilities in educational environment. We are all aware that individual efforts alone cannot protect rights. Thus, we will look at how the United Nations promotes the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities on a global scale. In addition, we will look at the Palestinian framework for protecting fundamental rights, as well as the vital role of education in fostering concepts of rights. Here, we want you to know that granting rights to people with disabilities occurs when three major aspects are met: rules and legislation, practices and programs, and values that can be reinforced through education. These three variables are closely linked and dependent on each other and can occur at multiple levels, including international agreements, national administration, community and civil society, and the individual level. Here, we are proposing a simplified approach to explain CRPD. We have combined its principles into three main categories: human rights, social inclusion, and lifelong plan. These categories serve as a framework to show the key concepts of the CRPD principles, demonstrating how these principles represent a shift from medical and charity-based approaches to a social model focusing on rights. The first category is about human rights, which encourages combating discrimination, promoting equal rights, gender equality, and equal opportunities in education, health, and work. Additionally, it prioritizes dignity and self-worth as primary criteria to be used when assessing any intervention aimed at safeguarding the rights of persons with disabilities. The second category is about social inclusion, which affirms the importance of full participation and the provision of equal opportunities, enabling persons with disabilities to actively engage in political, socio-economic, and cultural spheres. It also requests to ensure an effective participation, which means engaging persons with disabilities in collaborating with others and in decision making. The third category revolves around lifelong plan. It requests the preservation of the dignity of children with disabilities as their capacities evolve from childhood to adulthood. As mentioned earlier, ensuring rights requires action at various levels. We previously discussed the international level, and now we will focus on the Palestinian national level. The national administration, which includes government agencies, departments, ministries, is responsible for implementing policies, managing public and social services, and enforcing laws. They are tasked with integrating international agreements into national laws and policies. It is worthy to note that Palestinian authorities had already passed an inclusive law in 1999 prior to the adoption of the CRPD by the UN. Palestinians had been actively engaged with international social movements advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. This law was further translated into a policy to promote access to education in 2012. This policy aimed to ensure compulsory education, implement teacher training strategies, review and evaluate curricula, and raise awareness to enhance the quality of education. Therefore, this initiative led to the development of a policy specifically tailored to inclusion, known as the Inclusive Education Policy of 2015, which incorporates CRPD principles. As we can
We saw earlier how the aspect of rules and laws can protect the rights of persons with disabilities, and now we'll take an analytical look at the practices or actions taken to generate direct results in the field. For instance, to support the administrative structure to inclusion, a Department of Special Education and Inclusive Education was established as the Ministry of Education, followed by the creation of Inclusive Education Learning Resource Centers. These centers aim to empower persons with disabilities by providing information, assistance, education, and access to specialized equipment or technologies that enhance their independence. Numerous actions have been undertaken to enhance the implementation of laws and policies at the district level. Since 1999, 12 counselors have been assigned to each directorate. In 2000, an enrollment call for persons with disabilities was initiated, leading to the equipping of 123 resource rooms at schools. It's important to note that governmental efforts can be further supported by engaging civil society in the schools. NGOs at the General Union of People with Disabilities are actively working to represent and advocate for inclusion, while the private sector, taking the example of Galaxy Center for Training, offered free training sessions in digital marketing for persons with disabilities. Combining efforts across various areas of expertise can significantly improve the quality of life of persons with disabilities.
The CRPD mentions the role of education many times across its articles, but it explains how education can ensure quality in Article 24. This article focuses on the objective of education as lifelong learning, aimed at fully developing the potential of individuals with disabilities while equipping them with essential life skills such as communication methods including Braille or sign language, as well as social skills such as conflict resolution and many others. These skills are crucial to facilitate their full and equal participation, not only within educational environments, but also within the community. Quality education, as outlined by the CRPD, encompasses several key standards. Adaptation standard is the first one. This involves enrolling children and students with disabilities in primary, secondary education and in universities, as well as vocational training programs. It entails providing a flexible curriculum that caters to diverse abilities and needs, along with offering individualized support and accommodation approaches tailored to meet the communication needs and abilities of students with disabilities. The second standard is consideration. It implies that education should actively address discrimination and promote cultural diversity both within and outside school settings. The third one is assistive standards. It's requesting educational institutions, including schools and universities, to collaborate with the community and relevant stakeholders to ensure the availability of assistive technologies and accessibility measures, while ensuring protection for these students inside and outside school settings. The fourth standard is the expertise, which means that institutions should assign qualified personnel such as supported teachers, school-based therapists, and teachers with disabilities. They should also provide training for professionals and staff across all education levels, including expertise in delivering informal education and implementing lifelong learning programs targeting parents and the wider community. In addition, it requests to educate students on how to prevent and report exploitation, violence, and abuse. The last one is the collaboration standard, which is requesting schools and universities to prioritize collaboration as is a fundamental strategy to provide necessary support, scholarships, and financial assistance. In addition, they should focus on raising awareness and sharing experiences with other stakeholders to ensure sustainability as well as to provide habilitation and rehabilitation services. So, the objective of quality education is to ensure education as a lifelong learning process, meaning providing education for all ages and not limiting it to formal schooling by including informal learning and community-based programs, as well as improving life and social development skills.
Here, I will demonstrate how to build a human rights education program. We have two major approaches, formal education and non-formal education. In the formal approach, human rights education is integrated into the educational curriculum. Teachers play an important role in the learning process, employing interactive and participative techniques. The first method, the informing, involves providing information on human rights topics, such as the history of rights or cultural context. They can, by the second method, empowering, incorporate pedagogical methods and activities into the curriculum to encourage student participation and collaboration in the learning process. In addition, schools have a role to play in engaging model where they promote democracy and hold student elections, ensuring equal opportunities for students with disabilities to participate. In contrast, the non-formal approach takes place outside the traditional schooling system. Students actively participate in the learning process, collaborating with professors to create activities such as seminars, clubs, awareness campaigns, and community service projects. They learn through practical experiences facilitated by community professionals. The first methods of non-formal education is to place students at the center of the learning process, emphasizing values and respect, creating awareness of human rights principles and conventions, fostering a rights culture using various communication methods, including media and social media. The accountability model promotes student and teacher activism by developing skills such as negotiation, dialogue, and reporting human rights violations. Activities are implemented to address current issues in classrooms or at home. The transformative model requires to reach real results in the environment as removing barriers. It requires to work with the community and parents. Therefore, parenting workshops, community discussions, leadership programs, and community building efforts are all possible activities. Finally, the transformative approach aims to empower individuals and communities by fostering a culture of human rights.
Now we invite you to design an educational activity on human rights. Before starting, you need to first identify the main problems occurring at schools or universities and then vote for the most urgent one to be addressed. Here we'll take for example the problem of bullying. Next, you need to identify a solution that you would like to see, which can ensure a positive environment for inclusion at school. For example, let's choose the solution of having acts of kindness among the students for now. The third step is to choose the model for teaching human rights. So let's explore how to do this in the next slide. Before choosing the teaching models, you need to discuss two main decisions among yourselves. Firstly, you need to identify the behavioral changes that children and students are required to adopt. Here we have created a concise list to assist you in your discussion. This list of behavioral changes is not set in stone and be adjusted based on the needs and observation of teachers and your discussions. Secondly, you need to decide on the teaching models that you are able and allowed to implement in your classrooms and at schools. For example, let's say you have decided to improve the level of empathy and recognizing the emotions of bullied students, and you are able to implement the engaging model. This may require having a code of conduct that respects inclusiveness and outlining the measures to be taken if any violation occurs. This document should be drafted by the students themselves, for sure with your supervision. For elder ages, you can consider assigning two students on a regular basis to monitor communication among their peers assessing the types of support needed by bullied peers. It's important to note that to achieve a high level of empathy, you must also include some of the previously mentioned behavioral changes in your activity, or maybe the precedent ones. For instance, empathy cannot be achieved if students have not learned about diversity or assessed the consequences of bullying on their peers. Therefore, please discuss together the problems. Then, choose the first solution to achieve and update the list of behavioral changes until select the teaching model to design your activity. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we will now leave you to your activity.